The wax gave with a soft crack that sounded too much like bone. Illyria's fingers did not tremble. She slid the silver chain loose with the patience of a woman untying a noose from her own throat. When the lid rose, warm air breathed out, impossible in a room lit by ordinary candles, carrying a scent like rain striking hot stone. Inside lay an egg wrapped in dark cloth, its surface glossy as wet obsidian. It was not smooth. It was ridged, scaled, the pattern running in slow spirals that made Jon's eyes ache if he stared too long. Faint red veins threaded the black, not painted but grown into it, like life trying to push through stone. Jon did not move at first. He had faced men in armor, faced the cold dead eyes beyond the wall, faced his own brothers with knives. This felt stranger, smaller, more dangerous in its quietness. Illyria watched him across the table. In candlelight, her violet eyes looked almost black. "You expected trinkets," she said softly.
Lys sells trinkets.
"I do not." Jon's throat was tight. "How long have you had it?" he managed. Illyria's mouth curved. "Long enough that I stopped believing it could matter," she said. Then the world began to change again. Men began to whisper about a girl in the grass sea and dead dragons stirring in old stories. And I remembered what my grandmother used to say. She tapped the eggshell with the pad of her finger. "Stone remembers heat." Ghost's low growl vibrated through the room, a warning meant for whatever lay beneath that shell. The direwolf's hackles were raised. His red eyes never left the egg. Jon swallowed. He could feel his scars warming. Each place the knives had entered him turning tender, alive. "It's warm," he said, and he did not like how it sounded like awe. "It is," Illyria agreed. "Not always, only sometimes, like it's listening." Jon's hand drifted forward before he decided to move it, fingers hovering over the shell. Heat shimmered faintly in the air above it, so subtle he might have imagined it if his skin hadn't prickled. Illyria did not stop him. She only watched the way a woman watches a man step onto ice that might hold or might break. Jon's fingertips touched the egg. For an instant, the world went silent. The candles froze in their flicker. The warmth under his skin flared into something sharper, a pain that was not pain but recognition. A whisper slid through his blood, sibilant, crackling, spoken in a tongue he had never learned and somehow understood anyway. Not words, a sensation, command, burn. Jon jerked his hand back as if struck. His breath came fast. He stared at his fingers as though expecting them to be blackened. Illyria's expression did not change, but satisfaction glinted beneath it. "You felt it," she said. Jon forced his breathing steady. "It's alive," he rasped. "Not yet," Illyria said, "but it wants to be." She reached for the second casket, breaking the seal with the same calm precision. Inside was an egg the color of pale jade, its scales faintly iridescent. The third, when she opened it, was bone-white streaked with gold, as if sunlight had been trapped in ivory. 3 eggs, 3 impossibilities, 3 reasons men would slit throats in their sleep. Jon looked from them to Illyria. "If these are real," he said, voice low, "then every magister in Lys will come for them." Illyria's smile was thin. "They already have," she said. "They just don't know what they're smelling yet." Jon's jaw tightened. "Then why show me?" he demanded. "Why risk it?" Illyria leaned forward, resting her forearms on the dragon-carved table. "Because you're not a magister," she said. "You're not a buyer. You're a man with a war." Her gaze sharpened. "And because these eggs do not answer to coin, they answer to blood." Jon felt the word hit him like a hand closing around his throat. Blood. All his life he had been told his blood made him lesser. Now she was telling him it might make him something else. "You want my blood," Jon said, and it was accusation and fear both. Illyria's eyes did not flinch. "I want your name beside mine," she corrected. "I want your winter to temper my fire. The realm will not kneel to a Lyseni woman with a pretty lie. It might kneel to a wolf who returned from death with dragons behind him." Jon felt his scars itch beneath his shirt. He remembered the whisper when his fingers touched the shell. "Burn. You want a husband," Jon said. "And a king." Illyria nodded once. Jon's gaze lifted to her. "Then understand this," he said quietly. "I don't kneel." Illyria's smile returned, sharper now. "Good," she said. "Neither do I." The shrine was beneath the manse, behind a door masked by hanging tapestries. Illyria led him down narrow steps where the air grew warmer with each footfall. The stone walls sweated faint moisture, as if the earth itself breathed. At the bottom was a chamber no larger than a modest lord's solar, lit by a single fire altar. The flames burned clean and steady, fed by oil that smelled of spices and old smoke. Carved into the stone above it was a dragon, three-headed, coiled around itself, jaws open in eternal hunger. Jon stood at the threshold and felt his scars prickle. Not pain, recognition again, that sick certainty that something ancient had woken and was staring through him. Ghost refused to enter. The dire wolf lay across the threshold like a pale bar, head on his paws, eyes open. Not afraid, Ghost was not a creature that understood fear the way men did, but wary, as if he could smell a predator behind the fire. Illyria did not force him. She turned to Jon instead and offered the Valyrian steel dagger. "You said you had rules," she murmured. Jon took the dagger. The steel felt cool and heavy. He stared at the blade's dark ripples, thinking of Longclaw, thinking of the knives that had opened him in Castle Black's yard. "No slaves," he said again, and it sounded like a vow here. Illyria inclined her head once, impatient. "And," Jon's voice went flatter. "If we do this," he said, "we do it openly when we return west. Not as a secret, not as a whisper men can deny." Illyria's violet eyes narrowed. "You want to bind me to you where everyone can see," she said. "I want the realm to understand what it faces," Jon replied. "And I want no room for betrayal." Illyria's mouth curved, almost pleased. "Spoken like a man who has been stabbed," she said. Then she extended her left hand, palm up, without hesitation. Jon hesitated only a breath. Then he drew the dagger's edge lightly across her skin. Blood welled bright and startling against her pale flesh. Illyria did not flinch. Her eyes stayed on Jon's face, steady as the flame. Jon cut his own palm next. Pain sparked, clean and sharp. His blood looked darker than hers, thicker, Northman's blood. Bastard's blood. Wolf's blood. Illyria took a bronze bowl from beside the altar and held it between them. "Speak nothing you do not mean," she said quietly. Jon met her gaze. "I don't have the luxury of lies," he said. Illyria began to whisper in High Valyrian, the syllables rolling like embers. Jon did not know the words, but the sound of them made his skin tighten, made the fire lean toward them as if listening. She pressed her bleeding palm to his. Heat surged through Jon's arm, up into his shoulder, into his chest. His heartbeat stuttered. For an instant he felt as if the room tilted and the world beyond the stone ceiling vanished. There was only flame and blood and the faint, impossible thrum of something deep beneath the earth answering. Illyria's voice continued, steady. Jon caught fragments, not meaning but sensation. Bond, blood, fire, name. She drew their joined hands over the bowl and let their blood drip together, dark and bright mixing in slow drops that hissed faintly when they fell too near the fire's heat. Jon's throat tightened. He found himself speaking, not in Valyrian but in the plain, harsh language of the North. "I will not abandon you," he said. The words tasted like iron. "Not if you stand with me against what's coming." Illyria's whispering faltered for the first time. Her eyes widened slightly, not fear, but something that looked like surprise at sincerity. Then her mouth tightened and she resumed the old words, faster now, as if to cover the crack. She leaned close enough that Jon felt her breath. "Then you must take my name," she murmured in common tongue, low enough to be for him alone. In the old way. Jon's jaw clenched. "And you take mine," he said. Illyria's lips curved. "Gladly," she murmured, and her voice held hunger. They held their joined hands over the fire. Illyria lowered their palms toward the flame until heat licked their skin. Jon's scars flared hot. His blood sang. For an instant, he saw through the flames. Saw snow falling over black water. Saw a wall cracking. Saw 3 shadows wheeling over an army of gold-clad men marching beneath a foreign banner. He blinked hard. The vision snapped away. Illyria withdrew their hands, breathing slightly heavier now. She pressed her bloodied palm against his cheek, leaving a smear warm on his skin. "Now," she whispered, "you are bound." Jon stood very still, feeling the weight of it settle like a new cloak across his shoulders. Not black, not wool. Something heavier, stitched from fire and consequence. Ghost's eyes watched from the threshold, unblinking, as if judging whether Jon had just saved himself or doomed them both. They returned upstairs with blood wrapped in linen and vows wrapped in silence. The manse felt different now, no warmer, no brighter, yet altered, as if the air itself had learned their names. Illyria wasted no time on tenderness. If she felt anything softer than calculation, she hid it behind her eyes the way a soldier hides a wound beneath armor. She brought out scrolls and seals, old rings wrapped in cloth, letters with wax that had cracked with age. She laid them on the dragon-carved table beside the eggs like offerings. "This is what I am," she said, and there was a hard edge beneath it. Not pride, defiance, or at least what the world can be made to believe I am. Jon stared at the Targaryen crest on one seal, 3-headed dragon pressed into faded wax. "Belief," he said, tasting the word with distrust. Illyria's gaze sharpened. "Do you think Robert Baratheon won his throne because his claim was perfect?" she asked. "He won because men believed he could. He won because he broke what stood before him." Jon's jaw clenched at the name. He had heard tales of Robert's laughter, his fury, the way he had caved in a prince's chest with a hammer and then drunk until he forgot what it cost. Ned Stark had never spoken of it with anything like pride. Illyria tapped a brittle letter. "My bloodline began with a girl your realm pretends did not exist," she said. "Princess Sarah Targaryen, unruly, unforgiven, sent away with shame." Her mouth twisted slightly, contempt and kinship tangled. "She went east. She lived. She left children. Those children learned to hide, to marry carefully, to survive magisters who would rather own than honor." Jon listened, his face hard. "And you?" he asked. "You're her descendant?" Illyria's eyes flicked down to her own palm, bandaged now. "I am what exile makes," she said. "My grandmother called herself Targaryen when it suited her. She called herself something else when knives were near. But she kept these." She gestured to the eggs. "She kept them like a prayer." Jon's hand hovered near the nearest egg, not touching. He could feel warmth through the air. "Why didn't she hatch them?" he asked. Illyria's mouth curved, bitter. "Because she tried," she said. "She burned wealth. She burned men. She burned herself. And stone did not crack." Her gaze sharpened. "She said the world had to be ready. Or the blood." Jon felt his scars itch beneath his shirt. He remembered the whisper when his fingers touched the shell. "Burn." Illyria leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I did not show you these to impress you," she said. "I showed you because you are necessary." Jon's gaze snapped to her. "Necessary?" he repeated, and there was something dangerous in his tone. He had been used his whole life, by lords, by brothers, by duty itself. Illyria did not back away. "Yes," she said, "not because you are strong. Not because you are noble. Because you are divided." Her violet eyes narrowed as if she could see through his skin. "You are winter and something else. Something you don't speak of." Jon's throat tightened. Ned Stark's secret flared in his mind like a brand. He forced it down. "I'm a bastard," he said sharply. Illyria's smile was faint, knowing. "Then you are a man born outside the law," she said. "And men like that change worlds." Jon stared at the papers. "This won't be enough," he said. Westeros won't accept a Lyseni story and 3 eggs that haven't hatched. Illyria's eyes glinted. No, she agreed. They will accept dragons. Jon's stomach tightened. If they hatch, he said. They will, Illyria said, voice low and certain. They must. A knock sounded at the door, soft, controlled. One of Illyria's retainers entered, bowed, and murmured in a language Jon did not know. Illyria's expression did not shift, but something in her eyes sharpened. She dismissed the retainer with a flick of her fingers. When the door closed, she looked at Jon. Someone has been asking questions at the harbor, she said calmly. A Magister's man. He offered gold for rumors. Jon's hand went to Longclaw's hilt. How long until they come? He asked. Illyria's mouth curved. Soon, she said. Lys does not like mysteries it cannot purchase. Jon's voice went cold. Then we leave, he said. Illyria's gaze held his. Not yet, she said. Not until I have what I need. And what's that? Jon demanded. Illyria's fingers rested lightly on the nearest egg. Certainty, she whispered. Ghost lifted his head from Jon's boot, ears pricking. Outside, faintly, Jon heard laughter from the street. Lys continuing its pretty lies, unaware of the fire coiling beneath one manse. Jon stared at Illyria and realized something he had not allowed himself to admit. She had been expecting this. The questions, the danger, the knives. She had been building toward it like a woman stacking kindling. Lysono Mar arrived at dusk, announced by no herald, escorted by no fanfare. In Lys, important men did not arrive loudly. They arrived like knives, quiet, sudden, and already placed. He was Lyseni, like Illyria's retainers, pale and smooth-faced. His hair a bright silver that could have been pretty if not for the cold intelligence in his eyes. He wore a cloak too fine for a common cell's word, but Jon saw the yellow lining when it shifted, and the small pin at his throat. A skull above crossed swords. Golden Company. Lysono's smile was pleasant, practiced. He bowed to Illyria with courtly ease. Princess, he said, and the word sounded like a silk glove hiding a fist. Illyria did not rise. She sat in the garden courtyard beneath lanterns shaded in blue glass, a cup of wine untouched beside her. Lysono, she said, as if greeting an old inconvenience. Lysono's eyes flicked to Jon. And this must be the wolf, he murmured. Jon Snow. Jon's jaw tightened. The name traveled too easily. You know me, he said. Lysono spread his hands. I know stories, he replied. And I know coin. Stories are cheaper, but sometimes more valuable. Ghost lay at Jon's feet, head up, watching Lysono with stillness that made Jon's skin prickle. The dire wolf did not growl. He did not bare his teeth. He simply stared, as if memorizing the shape of a man he might need to kill. Lysono's gaze held Ghost's for a heartbeat, then returned to Illyria. You asked for a meeting, he said. You offered unusual leverage. Illyria's fingers tapped the arm of her chair once. You serve Harry Strickland, she said. Lysono's smile did not change. I serve the company, he corrected lightly. And the company serves a contract. Jon felt Illyria's posture shift slightly, the tiniest stiffening. She had expected that answer. It did not please her. Illyria leaned forward. Contracts can be amended, she said. Broken, if the price is high enough. Lysono's eyes glittered. Broken contracts are why men die in alleys, he said softly. The Golden Company is not flexible, princess. Illyria's mouth curved, cool. And yet you came, she said. Lysono's gaze flicked to Jon again. Because wolves returning from death are rare, he said. And because you have something the company has not seen in a century. His eyes drifted toward the man's door as if he could smell what lay behind it. Or so you claim. Jon's voice was flat. What do you want? He asked. Speak plain. Lysono laughed softly. Straight to the blade, he murmured. Very northern. He folded his hands. I want to know if you're trying to buy the company with pretty lies, he said. or if you're offering the kind of certainty that changes wars. Illyria rose then, smooth and controlled. Come inside, she said, and you will know. Lysono hesitated only a breath, then nodded. He gestured behind him, and two men stepped forward from the gate shadows. Hard-faced, scarred, dressed like men who slept with steel near their hands. They followed at a respectful distance. Jon's hand rested near Longclaw as they entered the manse. Illyria led them straight to the dragon-carved table. She did not bother with scrolls or seals. She did not waste time on words. She broke the wax seal on one casket and lifted the lid. Lysono's pleasant mask slipped for the first time. His eyes widened slightly, then narrowed as if he did not trust what he saw. He leaned in, slow, careful, like a man approaching a snake. The egg's surface drank candlelight. The red veins seemed brighter in the dim. Lysono did not touch it. He stared, breath shallow. "Stone," he murmured. "Old stone." Illyria watched him. "Not stone," she said softly. "Not anymore." Lysono's throat bobbed. He glanced at Jon, eyes sharp. "Is it true?" he asked. "Do they warm?" Jon did not like being looked at as if he were a tool. He stepped closer to the table. He held Lysono's gaze and placed his fingertips lightly on the shell. Heat flared. The whisper in his blood answered, sharper now, as if pleased to be noticed. "Burn." Lysono recoiled as if the heat had touched him too. His smile was gone. In its place was something close to fear. Illyria's voice was quiet, satisfied. "Tell Harry Strickland," she said. "Tell the captains. Tell them the world is changing, and contracts written on parchment will burn like straw." Lysono swallowed hard. He looked at the egg again, then at Illyria, then at Jon. "Dragons," he whispered, and the word tasted like a prayer and a curse. Jon's voice went cold. "We want men," he said. "We want ships. We want the Golden Company." Lysono's eyes narrowed. "The company wants land," he said softly. "A home, pardon, titles, not promises." Illyria's gaze sharpened. "They will have it," she said. Lysono's smile returned, but thinner now, strained. "You speak like a queen," he murmured. Illyria stepped closer to Jon, close enough that her shoulder brushed his arm. "I speak like a woman who is done begging," she said. Lysono held their gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded once, quick. "I will bring you to the captains," he said. "But understand, if this is a trick, they will not simply kill you. They will make an example. Even princes bleed the same." Jon's expression did not change. "Good," he said. "They should be afraid." Lysono's eyes flicked to Ghost, then back. "We leave before dawn," he said quietly. "Lys has ears, and once the Magisters smell this, they will come with chains." Jon's jaw clenched. "I told her," he said. Illyria's violet eyes met his, and for the first time Jon saw something like a crack in her armor, brief, sharp. "Then we don't give them time," she said. Outside, the city's music swelled, sweet and oblivious. Inside, 3 eggs pulsed faintly with heat, and men who lived by contract began to imagine fire. They came in the hour when Lys pretended to sleep. Jon woke to Ghost's growl, low, vibrating through the floorboards like distant thunder. For a heartbeat, Jon lay still, listening. The manse was quiet, but not the quiet of peace. It was the quiet of something held too tightly. Then he heard it, the faint scrape of metal against stone, soft as a lover's breath. Jon slid from the bed without a word, Longclaw already in his hand. Death had taught him to wake fast. Ghost was on his feet, fur bristling, eyes glowing in the dark. The door to the chamber moved, slowly, carefully. Jon did not wait for it to open. He crossed the room in 2 strides and yanked the door wide. A man in black silk stood there, a mask over his lower face, knife raised. His eyes widened in surprise. He had expected sleep. He got steel instead. Longclaw cut through him like the cold cutting through fog. The man's blood sprayed warm, smelling of spice and fear. He collapsed, gurgling, hands pawing at his own throat. Ghost lunged past Jon into the hallway, white fur a blur. Another assassin turned, knife flashing, and Ghost hit him with the full weight of a direwolf, jaws closing on his forearm. Bone cracked. The man screamed, high and thin, and tried to stab down into Ghost's neck. Jon's blade took his hand off at the wrist. Feet thundered. More shadows surged forward. Jon stepped into the hallway, narrowing the fight where numbers meant less. The corridor was tight, the walls close. He could hear Illyria's retainers shouting in their own tongue below. He could smell smoke. Someone had knocked over a lantern. Two assassins rushed him together, knives curved and wicked. Jon met them with Valyrian steel. Longclaw slid through silk and flesh as if the world wanted it. One man went down clutching his belly, intestines spilling. The other ducked, fast, and slashed at Jon's thigh. Pain flared. Jon grunted, felt warm blood run. He swung hard, using the weight of his blade. The assassin tried to retreat, but the narrow corridor betrayed him. Longclaw caught him across the chest. He staggered back into the wall and slid down, leaving a smear. Ghost released his victim and snapped his jaws at another man's calf, dragging him down. The assassin hit the floor with a thud and rolled, trying to crawl away. Ghost's teeth found his shoulder and tore. Jon's breath came harsh. His wounds from Castle Black screamed beneath the new strain. He felt that cold iron inside him, death's residue, keeping him steady while his body begged to falter. A shadow moved behind him.
Jon Spoon.
Illyria stood at the top of the stairs, holding a lamp high in one hand and her Valyrian steel dagger in the other. Her hair was loose now, silver spilling down her back. In the lamp glow, her eyes looked like bruised amethyst. She was calm. An assassin lunged for her, knife raised. Illyria did not step back. She stepped forward into the attack and drove her dagger up under the man's ribs with a surgeon's precision. He jerked, eyes wide. Illyria twisted the blade and withdrew it in one smooth motion. The man collapsed, choking on his own blood. Jon stared for a heartbeat. Then another assassin barreled toward him, forcing him back into motion. Jon caught the man's knife arm with his left hand, ignoring the bite of the blade against his palm, and drove Longclaw up through the assassin's chest. The man shuddered, eyes rolling, then sagged. Silence fell in jagged pieces. Jon stood breathing hard, Longclaw dripping. Ghost paced, head low, blood on his muzzle. The hallway smelled of smoke and copper. Somewhere below, a woman screamed, then cut off abruptly. Illyria stepped over a body without looking down. She came to Jon's side, lamp held steady. "They found us," Jon said, voice rough. Illyria's gaze swept the corpses, assessing. "They followed the scent," she murmured. "As I expected." Jon's jaw clenched. "You expected this," he said, accusation sharp. Illyria met his eyes. For a heartbeat, something like honesty flashed. "Yes," she said, "because Lys cannot help itself. It sees a jewel and believes it belongs in its hand." Her gaze flicked toward the manse's inner rooms, the eggs. "They will come again, with more men, with chains, with offers." Jon's scars burned. "Then we leave now," he said. Illyria's mouth tightened. "We leave before dawn," she said.
Lizonomar is already preparing.
She glanced at Jon's bleeding thigh. "Can you walk?" Jon's expression hardened. "I can," he said. Illyria lifted her lamp slightly, lighting the smear of blood on Jon's cheek from the fight. Her voice dropped. "Good," she whispered, "because if you fall now, you fall forever." Ghost pressed against Jon's leg, warm and solid. Jon took a breath that tasted of smoke and perfume and death. Somewhere in the manse, behind locked doors and guarded breath, 3 eggs pulsed with heat. Steady, patient, hungry. They did not wait for morning's permission. Illyria's manse became a hive of controlled movement. Retainers packed cloth and parchment, weapons and coin. Lanterns were shaded. Doors were barred and then unbarred again as decisions changed with each whispered report. John sat on a bench while a woman with pale hair stitched his thigh wound with quick, efficient fingers. He watched the needle pull through flesh and felt almost nothing beyond a dull burn. The numbness frightened him more than pain. It felt like death still lived in him, refusing to let sensation take full hold. Illyria returned an hour before dawn with a man in her wake. He was Lysini, plump, richly dressed, his fingers heavy with rings. Sweat shone on his brow despite the cool air. His eyes flicked everywhere at once. At John's sword, at Ghost, at Illyria's face. Looking for mercy like a man searching for a door in a wall. "Princess," he murmured, voice trembling. "Please, I did not know. I swear it." Illyria shut the door behind them with a soft click that sounded like a lock turning. John rose slowly, careful of his thigh. Ghost stood immediately, placing himself between John and the Magister as if he understood the shape of threat. Illyria gestured to the table. The Magister hurried to it, hands shaking as he spread silk cloth and poured out glittering offerings. Gold coins, pearls, small rubies the color of blood. "Take it," the Magister pleaded. "Take all of it. I only wanted assurances. I only wanted to know what rumors were true." Illyria's smile was cold. "Assurances," she echoed, and the words sounded like mockery. She drew her dagger and pressed its point lightly beneath the Magister's chin. He froze, breath caught. John watched, face hard. "You sent men to kill us," he said. The Magister's eyes widened. "Not kill," he gasped. "Just take. Take what you have. That is..." He swallowed, desperate. "That is how Lys works." Illyria's eyes glittered. "Then Lys will learn a new way," she said softly. John's voice was mild. "How many?" he asked. The Magister licked his lips. "3 men," he said quickly. "4. Hired knives." "I did not." He flinched as Illyria's dagger pressed slightly harder. "I did not know you would be guarded by a wolf." Ghost's ears twitched at the word. His red eyes remained fixed on the Magister's throat. Illyria's voice was mild. "And if you had known?" she asked. The Magister swallowed. "I would have sent more," he whispered, and his honesty was the honesty of terror. Illyria's mouth curved. "Thank you," she said, and then, without warning, she drew the dagger sideways in a swift cut. Blood welled bright. The Magister's hands flew to his throat, eyes wide with disbelief. He tried to speak, but only a wet gurgle came. He sank to his knees, fingers slipping in his own blood. John did not move. He watched the Magister die and felt nothing but a hard, cold understanding. When the man collapsed, Illyria wiped her dagger on his silk sleeve with the casualness of a woman cleaning dirt from her boots. "You didn't have to do that," John said, and his voice was quiet. Illyria's violet eyes met his. "Yes," she said, "I did." John's jaw clenched. "We need allies," he said, "not corpses." Illyria stepped closer, dagger still in her hand. "We need fear," she corrected. "Allies are bought. Fear lasts." John's scars burned. "Fear breaks men," he said. "It makes them betray you the moment they think someone stronger is coming." Illyria's gaze sharpened. "And love makes them betray you when they think you've become weak," she said. "Do not preach to me about loyalty, Jon Snow. You wore black. You know what men do." The truth of it hit like a slap. Jon exhaled slowly, forcing himself steady. Ghost pressed against his leg, a living anchor. Illyria's voice lowered. "You want no slaves," she said, and there was a faint edge of irritation. "Cost, consequence. Do you understand what that means here? Lys runs on chains. Ships sail because men are owned. Homes are built because bodies are bought." Jon met her gaze. "Then we don't sail on those ships," he said. Illyria's mouth tightened. "Then we pay more," she said. Jon nodded once. "Then we pay more," he repeated. "Or we die. But we don't build our fire on chains." For a heartbeat, Illyria looked at him as if seeing him clearly for the first time. Not as a symbol, not as a tool, but as a stubborn man carved from winter. Then she laughed softly, almost without humor. Very well, she said. You will bankrupt me with your honor. John's voice was rough. You'll thank me later, he said. Illyria's eyes glittered. Perhaps, she murmured, if we live long enough to have a later. She stepped past the dying man without another glance and moved toward the inner rooms, where the eggs were hidden. John followed, Longclaw in hand, ghost clothes. Outside, Lyssa's dawn began to pale the sky, soft and innocent. Inside, the air tasted of blood and consequence, and John understood something grim. He had married not just a woman, but a war. The ship was lean and fast, built for slipping through narrow channels and outrunning heavier hulls. Its captain was a man Illyria trusted, meaning a man she either paid too well to betray her or frightened too much to try. John suspected it was both. They left Lys behind under the cover of dawn mist. The city's lanterns faded into pale stars on the water. John watched them disappear and felt no regret. Lys had tried to wrap him in softness and perfume and sell him a lie. He had never belonged to soft places. Illyria stood at the rail beside him, the sea wind tugging at her hair. She held a small chest under a cloak, fingers tight around it. The eggs were below deck, wrapped and guarded, their heat seeping faintly through wood as if the ship carried a hidden hearth. Lysono Mar lingered near the mast, eyes always moving. His 2 Golden Company men remained silent, hands never far from their hilts. They watched John and Illyria with the wary respect men offer things that might explode. John's thigh throbbed with each shift of the deck, but he ignored it. Pain was a familiar companion now. He focused on the horizon, gray water under gray sky, endless. Illyria did not look at him as she spoke. The disputed lands, she said softly. That is where the company camps, between Mir and Tyrosh. A place fought over so often the ground remembers blood better than rain. John's mouth tightened. Fitting, he said. Illyria's lips curved faintly. War has a sense of humor, she murmured. Silence stretched. Wind hissed through rigging. The sea slapped the hull like impatient hands. John felt the whisper again, faint under his skin. It came strongest when he was near the eggs. Sometimes, when the ship creaked and the boards warmed slightly, he could swear he heard a low thrum beneath it all, like a heartbeat inside stone. He had not told Illyria. He did not know if it was real or if death had left him cracked in ways he could not see. Ghost stood at the bow, ears forward, watching the water as if expecting it to rise and bite. The direwolf's presence drew stares from sailors, but none dared approach. Even in a world of sea and silk, a direwolf was a reminder of older truths. Lysono stepped closer, careful not to startle Ghost. You should understand what you're walking into, he said quietly to John, voice carrying only as far as the wind allowed. John's eyes stayed on the horizon. Tell me, he said. Lysono's smile was absent now. The Golden Company keeps its word, he said. Men tell themselves that like it's a virtue. Sometimes it's a noose. His eyes flicked to Illyria briefly. They have a contract, not a rumor, not a flirtation, a signed agreement. Illyria's jaw tightened, but she did not speak. Lysono continued, voice low. They will not break it because a pretty princess asks, he said. They might bend it if they smell something bigger than parchment. John's scars prickled. Dragons, he said. Lysono's gaze sharpened. Yes, he said, but eggs are not dragons. Men have been lied to before. They will want proof. They will demand certainty. And captains who have lived by steel do not accept faith easily. John glanced at him then, eyes cold. Neither do I, he said. Lysono nodded once, respect flickering. Good, he murmured. Then you will understand what comes next. He leaned closer. They may try to take them, he whispered. The eggs, if they believe you cannot protect them. If they think the company's future depends on owning fire, not marrying it. John's hand tightened on the rail. Let them try, he said, and his voice carried a promise. Illyria finally looked at him. In her eyes, John saw something like approval and something like warning. You cannot threaten everyone, she said softly. Sometimes you must persuade. Jon's mouth twisted. Persuasion got me stabbed, he said. Illyria's lips pressed together. Then learn a new way, she said. Jon stared out at the gray sea and thought of the wall, thought of the dead. If persuasion failed, he would learn whatever way he had to. If fire was what the world required, then he would carry fire. He felt the egg's warmth below deck, steady, patient. Somewhere ahead, Sel's words waited under yellow banners, dreaming of home. Somewhere ahead, men who had never seen dragons would decide whether to believe in them or die denying them. Jon breathed in the salt air until it burned his lungs, and he promised himself one thing. No one would take these eggs from him. Not magisters, not captains, not even the woman who had placed them at his feet like a crown. The disputed lands smelled like wet earth and old blood. The air was heavy, warm compared to the north, yet the ground underfoot felt dead, trampled into mud by thousands of boots, soaked by rain and war until it became a single shared wound. The Golden Company camp spread across the low hills like a yellow rash. Tents stamped with the skull and swords stood in ordered rows. Men moved with practiced purpose, drilling, sharpening steel, mending armor. This was not a rabble of Sel's words. This was an army that had made discipline into a religion. As Jon and Illyria approached under escort, eyes followed them. Some looked curious. Some looked hostile. Most looked calculating, the way men look at a new weapon being brought into the armory. Ghost drew the strongest reactions. Soldiers stepped back, muttering. A few made signs against evil. Others stared openly, fascinated. Jon saw fear in their faces, not because Ghost was an animal, but because he was a symbol. A wolf did not belong in Essos any more than dragons belonged in stone. Lysono Mar led them to the central fire pit, where the captains waited. Harry Strickland stood at the front, broad, thick around the middle, his face red from sun and drink. His eyes were pale and wary. He did not look like a hero. He looked like a man who had survived too long and knew better than to trust pretty stories. Beside him were harder men. Captains with scarred knuckles and eyes that had watched cities burn without flinching. Jon recognized some names from whispered tales. Laswell Peak, sharp-faced and grim. Tristan Rivers, dark-eyed with a half-smile that promised nothing. Gory Sidorian, heavy-set, his gaze measuring like a butcher. Harry Strickland's eyes flicked over Jon, over Illyria, over Ghost. "So," he said, voice thick, "this is the wolf." Jon met his gaze, expression hard. He did not bow. He did not offer courtesies. "Jon Snow," he said, and left it at that. Harry's mouth twisted. "And you," he said to Illyria, eyes narrowing. "You call yourself a princess." Illyria held his gaze without blinking. "I am what the world forgot," she said calmly, "and what it will remember." A few captains snorted. Tristan Rivers chuckled softly. "Pretty words," he murmured. Harry Strickland spat into the mud. "Words don't pay," he said. "Words don't feed men. Words don't keep contracts." His eyes sharpened. "Lysono says you have leverage." Illyria stepped forward and nodded to one of her retainers. The retainer brought the covered case. Dark wood bound in iron. Set it down near the fire pit and stepped back. The captains leaned in slightly, wary as men approaching an unexploded shell. Illyria unlatched the case. Jon felt the heat before the lid fully lifted. His scars prickled. The whisper in his blood stirred, eager. When the egg was revealed, the camp's noise seemed to dim for a heartbeat. Even the wind paused, as if listening. Harry Strickland stared. His face went slack, then hardened again as if he didn't trust his own eyes. "That," he said slowly, "is stone." Illyria's voice was soft. "Touch it," she said. Harry did not move. Laswell Peak did. He stepped forward, expression contemptuous, and reached out with 2 fingers. He touched the egg's shell and jerked back with a curse. "It's warm," he snapped, eyes wide despite himself. A murmur ran through the captains. Men drew closer. Some looked suddenly hungry. Jon watched them and felt the same cold understanding he'd felt watching the Magister die in Illyria's manse. Men would kill for this. Men would betray for this. Harry Strickland's gaze snapped to Jon. "Why you?" he demanded. "Why bring this to us? Why not sell it to a Magister and live like a king in a pleasure house?" Jon's voice was flat. "Because kings in pleasure houses freeze when winter comes," he said. "Because the dead are coming, and I need an army." A few captains exchanged glances, uncertain. Tristan Rivers' half-smile faded. Harry squinted. "Dead," he repeated, as if tasting the word. "You mean some northern ghost story?" Jon took a slow breath. "I mean an enemy that doesn't care about contracts," he said. "An enemy that doesn't tire, doesn't bribe, doesn't break." His eyes swept the camp. "You can take Westeros and still lose everything if you ignore what's coming." Gory Sidorian snorted. "Westeros is always coming," he rumbled. "Always some lord's problem. We're paid to fight men, not shadows." Illyria's voice cut in, calm and sharp. "Then you will die like men," she said. "And your glorious reputation will rot with your bones." Harry's face reddened. "Careful girl," he growled. "I've hanged prettier tongues than yours." Jon stepped forward, Longclaw visible now as he shifted his cloak aside. The Valyrian steel caught firelight in dark ripples. Several captains' eyes flicked to it immediately. Harry's gaze narrowed. "Valyrian steel," he muttered. "You're either very rich or very cursed." Jon's mouth tightened. "Both," he said. Harry spat again, thinking hard. "Contracts," he said. "Our contract stands." He jabbed a finger toward the egg. "But this changes calculations." His eyes sharpened on Illyria. "Is it yours? Or is it his?" Illyria's gaze flicked to Jon for a heartbeat, then back. "It answers to blood," she said.
Mine.
"Is bound together now." A ripple ran through the captains at that. Some looked suddenly wary. Some looked intrigued. Marriage was an alliance. It was also a leash. Tristan Rivers' eyes glittered. "You married the wolf," he murmured, amused. "Now that's a song." Harry's expression hardened. "Songs don't matter," he said, but his eyes were fixed on the egg like a starving man staring at bread. "If you want the company," he said, "you give us certainty." Illyria's voice remained calm. "You will have it," she said. Harry's jaw clenched. "No," he snapped. "Not promises. Proof." He leaned forward, face close to the egg. "Dragons," he said quietly, almost reverent despite himself. "If you hatch it, the company marches for you. If you fail, we take the egg as payment for wasting our time." Jon's hand tightened on Longclaw's hilt. The captains watched him, gauging whether he would explode. Illyria's eyes narrowed. "You would steal from your allies," she said softly. Harry's smile was ugly. "We don't have allies," he said. "We have employers." Jon's voice went cold as ice. "Try to take it," he said, "and you'll learn what kind of employer I am." The camp's air seemed to tighten. Soldiers nearby stilled, hands drifting toward hilts. Ghost rose, silent, teeth bared now, a low growl rolling from his chest. Illyria placed her hand lightly on Jon's arm, not to restrain him, but to steady the moment. Her voice was quiet. "We hatched them," she said. "Here, before your eyes." Harry Strickland's breath hitched. He stared at her, then at Jon, then at the egg. "Tonight," he said hoarsely. "If you're lying, you'll die screaming." Jon met his gaze without blinking. "Then listen closely," he said, "because if I succeed, you'll kneel." Harry's face hardened, but fear flickered beneath it, brief and real. The company's captains watched the egg as if it were already cracking. Above them, the sky hung heavy and overcast, as if even the heavens waited to see whether fire would return. Night in the Golden Company camp was not quiet. Men laughed, argued, sang crude songs. Fires burned in pits, casting flickering light on yellow tents and steel helms. But around the central fire pit, where the captains gathered, silence held like a drawn bow. They made a ring of watchers, Captains in front, soldiers behind them, all pressed close enough to feel the heat. Faces shone with sweat despite the cool night air. Eyes glittered with hope and fear and greed. Illyria knelt by the fire pit, her hair braided tight again, her bandaged palm unwrapped. Jon stood beside her, long claw sheathed but present. His own palm reopened where the shrine cut had begun to heal. The sting of fresh blood made his scars itch. The egg sat in a bed of coals, nestled as if it belonged there. Oil was poured carefully around it. The flames licked up, bright and hungry, but the egg did not blacken. It drank heat. Jon could hear the whisper in his blood now, louder than before, as if the egg's warmth had reached into him and pulled. Burn, it hissed. Burn and live. Harry Strickland watched with his mouth slightly open, as if he had forgotten how to close it. Laswell Peake's face was tight, jaw clenched. Tristan Rivers looked almost reverent despite himself. Illyria began to speak in High Valyrian, voice low and steady. The words rolled through the night air like embers carried on wind. Jon did not know the meaning, but the sound made the hairs on his arms rise. She held her bleeding palm over the egg, letting drops fall onto the shell. The blood hissed faintly where it struck the hot surface. Jon felt every man's eyes on him. He hesitated only a breath, then held his own palm over the egg and let his blood fall too. Dark drops splattered, shining briefly before vanishing into heat. Ghost prowled the ring's edge, growling, ears pinned back. The direwolf did not like this. Jon could feel it through the bond, that animal certainty that something was being summoned. Illyria reached for Jon's hand and pulled him down beside her. Their bloodied palms pressed together again, above the egg, above the flame. Heat surged up through Jon's bones. He felt the whisper become a roar, felt something inside him stretch as if reaching for something else. The crack sounded sharp, loud in the hush. Men flinched as if struck. Someone behind the captains whispered a prayer. Jon's breath caught. He stared at the egg. Another crack, longer this time, a thin fissure spidering across the shell's black surface. Red veins brightened, pulsing. Illyria's eyes were wide now, violet catching firelight. Her composure slipped for the first time, not into fear, but into raw, desperate hope. "Come," she whispered in Valyrian, and the words sounded like command and pleading both. The fissure widened. A piece of shell broke free and fell into the coals with a hiss. Something moved inside. Jon's scars burned like brands. He felt his own heartbeat stutter, then match a second rhythm, smaller, faster, like a drumbeat in the coals. A wet sound came, soft and horrible. Another piece of shell broke away. A small head pushed through smoke. It was black as midnight, slick with fluid, eyes sealed shut. Tiny horns ridged its skull. Its mouth opened, and a thin, rasping cry emerged, weak but furious. The camp's silence shattered into murmurs and gasps. Harry Strickland stumbled back a step, face pale beneath the firelight. Laswell Peake swore softly. Tristan Rivers stared as if at a god. The hatchling's eyes fluttered open. Not blue, not brown, red gold. Jon's breath left him. He felt it. Felt the hatchling's gaze brush his like a spark. Ghost snarled, teeth bared, circling the fire pit's edge as if ready to tear the creature apart or defend it. Jon could not tell. Illyria reached toward the hatchling with trembling fingers. She who had never trembled for knives. The hatchling hissed, smoke curling from its nostrils, and snapped weakly at her hand. Illyria froze, then withdrew slowly, swallowing hard. Jon moved without thinking. He leaned close, ignoring the heat, and held his bleeding palm nearer the hatchling's face. The little dragon's head turned, nostrils flaring. Its tongue flicked out, tasting blood. Jon felt a jolt like lightning under skin. The hatchling made a sound that was not a cry now, but something lower, almost pleased. It pressed its head against Jon's palm, slick and hot. The whisper in Jon's blood became clarity. Mine. Jon's throat tightened. He did not look away. He let the creature taste him, claim him, and in that moment he understood with brutal certainty. This was no symbol, no story. This was a living weapon, a living hunger, and it had chosen him. Around them, the Golden Company watched in terrified awe. Harry Strickland's voice came out hoarse. "Seven, save us," he whispered, and it sounded like prayer from a man who had stopped believing long ago. Illyria's eyes remained on the hatchling, bright with fierce, possessive joy, and something like grief, as if she had just given birth to the future and it terrified her. Jon's voice was rough, barely more than breath. "It's only one," he said. Illyria's gaze snapped to him. "Then we hatch the rest," she whispered. The fire crackled. The hatchling hissed, smoke curling in thin threads. Somewhere beyond the camp, war waited. Somewhere beyond the world, winter waited. But here, in coals and blood, fire had returned. Dawn bled pale over the disputed lands, turning the camp's yellow into washed-out gold. Mist clung to the ground, damp and cold, crawling around boots and tent lines like something alive. Jon had not slept. The hatchling had curled against him through the night, clinging with tiny claws that pricked through cloth. Its heat seeped into Jon's skin, warming scars that had never fully warmed since the wall. It was light now, small enough to cradle, yet Jon could feel the danger in it. The restless twitch of wings too new to fly, the sharp little teeth that snapped at anything that moved too quickly. He sat near the fire pit as the camp slowly woke, the hatchling tucked beneath his cloak like a secret heart. Men stared openly now. Some stepped close, then stopped, fear tugging them back. Others whispered prayers. A few smiled with hungry hope. Illyria stood opposite him, her face drawn from exhaustion, hair pulled back, eyes bright in a way that was not entirely sane. She held the second egg, jade green, in her hands, cradled like an infant. Steam rose faintly from its shell. "It's close," she murmured, voice hoarse. "I can feel it." Jon's scars prickled in answer. He did not need her to tell him. The whisper in his blood surged whenever the egg was near, eager, demanding. Harry Strickland approached with his captains behind him. Mud clung to their boots, to their cloaks. They looked as if they had aged a year in a night. Harry stopped a few paces away, staring at Jon's chest where a hint of black scale showed beneath the cloak. His mouth worked soundlessly for a moment, like a man trying to swallow a stone. Jon met his gaze, expression hard. He felt no triumph, only the cold satisfaction of inevitability. "You did it," Harry said finally, and his voice sounded like surrender. Jon did not answer. Harry's eyes flicked to Illyria and the steaming egg, then back to Jon. "If the company follows you," he said slowly, "we will make enemies. We will break men who think they own the future." His face tightened. "And we will break a contract." Illyria's smile was razor-thin. "Contracts burn," she said softly. Harry flinched at the certainty in her tone. He looked back at Jon, searching for something. Mercy, perhaps. He found only winter. Jon's voice was low. "You asked for proof," he said. "You have it." Harry looked up, eyes wary. "The dead," he said quietly. Jon nodded once. Illyria's voice cut in, calm despite the steam curling from the egg in her hands. "And for land," she added. "For pardon. For titles. For home." Her violet eyes flashed. "I will give you Westeros to settle in if you earn it." Some captains' eyes gleamed at that. Greed was a language they spoke fluently. Jon's voice went colder. "And you will obey my rule," he said, looking at Harry. "No slabs. Not in the army. Not in the fleet. Not in what we build." A ripple ran through the captains. Surprise. Irritation. Calculation. Harry's face tightened. "That's costly," he muttered. Jon's eyes narrowed. "So is dying," he said. "Choose." Harry held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded once. Sharp. "No slaves," he said, and the words sounded like a man biting down on bitterness. "As you command." Illyria's expression flickered. Annoyance, acceptance, something like respect. She did not thank Jon. She did not need to. The rule had become part of the bargain, stitched into their fire whether she liked it or not. Jon looked down as the hatchling pushed its head out from his cloak, blinking red-gold eyes at the gray world. It opened its mouth and released a thin puff of smoke, then sneezed, startled by its own breath. A few soldiers laughed, nervous, disbelieving laughter. Jon's lips twitched, the ghost of a smile that surprised him with its existence. He reached up and brushed his thumb lightly along the hatchling's scaled head. The creature leaned into the touch, possessive. Illyria's fingers tightened on the jade egg. A crack sounded soft, but clear. Her breath caught, her violet eyes widened. Jon's scars flared hot again. He looked up at Illyria just as a thin fissure spidered across the green shell. The camp held its breath, and in that held moment, Jon Snow understood the shape of the road ahead. Ships, fire, contracts burned, kings trembling, and winter chasing them like a wolf. He cradled the hatchling closer, feeling its heat against his heart. "Ready the fleet," he said quietly. Harry Strickland, kneeling in mud, answered like a man who had just seen gods bleed. "Aye," he said, "we sail." The crack raced across the jade shell like lightning trapped in stone. Illyria's breath hitched, sharp and loud in the mist, and every man who had knelt in the mud seemed to tighten, as if the sound had pulled a string tied to his spine. She held the egg up, turning it toward the pale dawn as if searching for an omen in the fissures. Steam rose in thin ribbons from the shell and vanished into the cold air. The hatchling under Jon's cloak stirred, a restless twitch of wings against his ribs, and Jon felt the answering flare in his scars, heat blooming where knives had once kissed him. "Bring coals," Illyria said, voice raw. Men moved at once. Sel's words, who would have laughed at a prayer, scrambled like servants, shoveling embers from the fire pit into a shallow iron brazier. Harry Strickland barked orders without realizing he was obeying. The captains shifted closer, their faces shining with damp and hunger. Illyria set the brazier down herself and lowered the jade egg into the bed of coals. Oil was poured around it. Flames licked up, bright as blood, and the egg drank the heat without blackening. The fissure widened. A sound like a sigh slipped out, soft, wet, intimate. Jon crouched beside her, not because he was told to, but because the air around the egg pulled at him. He could hear it now beneath everything. An insistent, quickening thrum, like a heartbeat that refused to be ignored. He laid his bandaged palm on the ground for balance and felt warmth seep through the mud as if the earth itself had begun to smolder. Illyria's own bandage was gone. She held her palm over the egg again, letting blood fall in slow drops that hissed and vanished. Her face did not flinch, but her eyes were wide, fixed, unblinking, as if she feared the world might change if she blinked. Jon opened his own wound with a twist of his thumb. Pain sparked, blood welled dark. He let it fall too, and the whisper in his veins answered like a voice glad to be summoned. "Burn." The jade shell shuddered. A piece broke free and toppled into the coals with a hiss. Another crack split outward, then another, until the egg looked like a map of fractured glass. Ghost paced at the ring's edge, fur bristling, red eyes narrowed. The direwolf's growl rolled low and constant, a warning that made men shift their feet and glance away. Jon felt Ghost's unease like a cold hand on his neck. He understood it. This was not a pup being born. This was a weapon waking. The shell collapsed inward with a wet sound. A head pushed out, slick with steaming fluid, scales the color of deep river green. Small horns ridged its crown, and when it opened its mouth, the sound that came was a thin, furious hiss, sharp as a blade drawn too fast. The hatchling's eyes snapped open. They were not red gold like Jon's. They were bright as fresh leaves after rain, green shot through with pale fire. Illyria made a sound that was not quite a laugh and not quite a sob. She reached toward the creature with fingers that trembled for the first time, but she did not touch it yet. The hatchling hissed again and tried to pull itself free of the ruined shell, claws scraping coals. Smoke curled from its nostrils in delicate threads. One of Harry Strickland's captains muttered a prayer. Another simply stared, mouth open, as if his mind could not decide whether this was salvation or doom. Illyria leaned closer, her palm still bleeding. She spoke in High Valyrian, soft, urgent syllables, calling the hatchling as if it were a child lost in a crowd. The little dragon turned its head toward her voice, nostrils flaring, tasted the air, then snapped, quick and vicious, at the nearest ember. Illyria did not pull back. She offered her bleeding palm. The hatchling lunged and latched onto her hand. Illyria gasped, not in fear, but in shock at the pain, and held still. Tiny teeth pierced her skin. Blood ran in bright streaks down her wrist. The hatchling sucked greedily, throat working, and Jon felt the air tighten, as if something invisible had clicked into place. Illyria's face went pale for a heartbeat. Then her eyes flared with a fierce, triumphant light. She whispered another Valyrian word, gentler now, and the hatchling loosened its bite. It pressed its scaled head against her palm, possessive. Jon exhaled slowly. The bond was real. He felt it like heat between them. The black hatchling under his cloak hissed sharply, offended, and Jon's chest warmed in response. He lifted the creature slightly, letting its head emerge. Red gold eyes glared at the green hatchling across the coals. The two dragons stared, silent, as if measuring each other's claim. Harry Strickland, still in the mud, lifted his head. His eyes were wet. Jon did not know if it was from mist or something older. "Two," Harry said, voice hoarse. "Two God's damned dragons." Illyria did not look away from the hatchling biting her hand. "Not gods," she murmured. "Mine." Jon rose slowly, letting the black hatchling curl back against his chest. He looked at the captains kneeling in mud, at the soldiers staring with fear that tasted like worship, at Ghost pacing like a white shadow. "You wanted certainty," Jon said, voice low. "Now you have it." Harry's jaw worked. He swallowed hard. "And the third?" he rasped. Illyria's gaze flicked to the remaining egg case, bone white streaked with gold, waiting like a held breath. Her expression tightened. "It will come," she said, as if promising it to herself more than to them. Jon's scars burned with the word. He believed her. He feared her. Behind them, the camp began to stir with a new kind of rumor. Faster, sharper, unstoppable as fire through dry straw. Men who had marched for coin all their lives looked up and saw a future with wings. Jon cradled his hatchling closer and felt it pulse against him like a second heart. Somewhere far away, winter kept walking. Here, in mud and embers, the world started to kneel for real. By midday, the camp became motion. Harry Strickland's discipline snapped into place like a lock. Tents came down. Wagons creaked. Armor was strapped and unstrapped and strapped again. Captains shouted. Quartermasters argued. Men who had spent their lives crossing borders with nothing but steel now began to speak of ships and harbors and tides, as if the sea had always been their home. Jon watched from a small rise while Ghost prowled the perimeter, leaving paw prints in mud and crushed grass. The black hatchling had taken to riding inside Jon's cloak, curled against his chest like a warm stone. It slept in fits and starts, waking to snap at the air if someone came too close, then settling again when Jon's hand stroked its ridged skull. Illyria moved through the camp like a blade in silk. The green hatchling clung to her arm now, wrapped around her forearm with its tail looped like a bracelet. It hissed at any man who stared too long. Illyria ignored the stares. She had lived on hunger and attention too long to be embarrassed by either. The third egg remained hidden in the ironbound case. Jon felt it even when he could not see it. A low warmth beneath the wagon boards, a patient thrum that made his scars itch and his sleep uneasy. They marched for the coast under gray skies, the Golden Company's yellow banners drooping in damp wind. Villages watched them pass with shuttered windows. A few men came out to stare, then hurried back inside when they saw Ghost and the little dragons. Children cried. Dogs whined. Superstition ran ahead of them like a messenger. At the first port, Myrish, low and stinking with fish and tar, ship captains refused them at first. They saw the army and smelled trouble. They saw the dragons and smelled death. Illyria took meetings in back rooms where the air was thick with salt and fear. Jon sat beside her like winter made flesh, saying little. He let silence do the work. Men filled silence with their own terror. Coin opened some doors. Threats opened others. But the most difficult doors were the ones Jon insisted remain closed. No slave oars, he said, flat and final, when a Myrish broker offered a line of sleek galleys at half price. Each one powered by chained men who would die at the benches before a season ended. The broker blinked, confused. That is how ships move, he said, as if Jon had asked him to sail without water. That is how ships move here, Jon corrected. His voice did not rise. It did not need to. Not for us. Harry Strickland's face reddened when the broker left. We're buying war, he muttered. Not virtue. Jon met his gaze. You're buying a future, he said. If you want a home in Westeros, you will not build it on the same chains you ran from. Harry's jaw clenched. Your northern honor will get men killed, he snapped. Jon's scars burned, remembering knives. So will your convenience, he replied. Illyria watched them spar with cool eyes. She did not intervene. She only said, when the tent fell quiet again, "We pay more." Harry muttered curses, but he obeyed. The Golden Company had bowed to fire. Now they learned the price of ice. They found ships in the end. Fewer, older, captained by men who valued coin less than survival and believed dragons were the best insurance against pirates. Illyria paid in gold and promises. Jon paid in stares that made men imagine their own funerals. As the fleet gathered, word arrived from the west in fragments. Ravens carried to Pentos, then to Myr by merchant hands. Rumors of a queen in King's Landing clinging to power with claws. Rumors of the north bleeding under flayed banners. Rumors of the wall groaning with strange sounds in the night. One letter came to Jon through a Braavosi courier, sealed in plain wax. The handwriting was tight, familiar in its harsh strokes. Melisandre, only 3 lines. Ice stirs. Fire must move. Do not come alone. Jon read it twice, then burned it in a brazier until the parchment curled into ash. He watched the flame eat the words and felt his hatchling stir against his chest, pleased by heat. Illyria stood beside him, her green hatchling asleep on her arm. She writes like a woman who believes she speaks for gods, Illyria murmured. Jon's gaze stayed on the fire. She speaks for what she sees, he said. Illyria's violet eyes narrowed. And what do you see, Jon Snow? She asked quietly. Jon looked out toward the harbor where their ships waited, masts stabbing at the sky like spears. He saw the sea they would cross. He saw the land beyond it. He saw white eyes in dead faces. I see a realm that thinks it's fighting over a chair, he said, while winter sharpens its knives. Illyria's mouth tightened. Then we sharpen ours faster, she said. Below them, the Golden Company loaded crates of steel and grain, water and arrows. Men sang under their breath, not cheerful songs but marching ones, grim and steady. Jon watched the fleet come together and understood the shape of the next war. It would not be fought only with swords. It would be fought with hunger and fear, with coin and flame, with the choices you refused to make even when they were easy. Behind all of it, the third egg waited, quiet as fate. The first attempt came before they could sail. It began as a whisper in the docks. Too many men with too clean hands, too many questions asked in low voices. Jon noticed because he had spent years watching for danger in places men pretended were safe. He noticed because Ghost noticed first, ears pricking, body angling subtly toward threats the way a blade angles toward light. That night, as the fleet's last provisions were hauled aboard, a shout erupted near the outer pier. A dockworker dropped a crate and ran, eyes wide. Men surged toward the sound with knives half drawn. Jon moved before the camp could decide what to do. He pushed through barrels and ropes, Ghost at his heel, Illyria close behind with the green hatchling curled on her shoulder like a jeweled serpent. They found blood on the pier planks and a man sprawled with a bolt in his throat. Another man crawled away, clutching his belly, eyes rolling white. Figures in dark cloaks darted between stacked crates, quick as rats. Magister's men, Harry Strickland growled as he arrived with a knot of captains. Or worse. Worse was what Jon tasted in the air. Ambition, and the particular stench of men who believed themselves untouchable because they served someone richer. A crossbow twanged. The bolt came for Illyria's chest. Jon stepped into its path without thinking. The bolt struck his shoulder and bit deep. Pain flared hot. Jon grunted, staggered, and then kept moving. He grabbed a rope coil and hurled it toward the shooter. It tangled around the man's legs. Ghost launched, jaws closing on the man's calf with a crunch that made nearby sailors retch. Illyria's eyes flashed. She did not scream. She raised her bleeding palm, still not fully healed, and spoke a sharp Valyrian word that cracked like a whip. The green hatchling hissed, head snapping toward the nearest attacker. Smoke puffed from its nostrils. Then, with a sound like a small bellows, it spat a thin stream of green-tinged flame. The fire was brief, but it was real. It struck a crate and licked a long tarred rope. The rope flared. A man stumbled back, face lit in sudden terror, and tripped into the flames. He screamed as the fire caught his cloak. The dock erupted into chaos. Sailors scattered. Golden Company men surged forward, swords out. The attackers tried to retreat toward a waiting skiff, but Ghost and steel closed around them fast. Jon ripped the bolt from his shoulder with a wet sound and bit back a groan. Blood spilled warm down his arm. His black hatchling woke at the sudden pain and shrieked, a thin, furious sound that cut through the shouting like a knife. The nearest attacker turned at that sound, eyes widening at the sight of the little dragon's head emerging from Jon's cloak. Jon's voice went cold. "Don't," he said, but the man was already raising his knife. Jon did not strike first. The hatchling did. It snapped forward, jaws closing on the man's hand. The man screamed as tiny teeth pierced skin, and in that scream the hatchling's throat worked. Heat swelled. Jon felt it as if his own lungs had filled with embers. A jet of flame burst from the hatchling's mouth. Short, brutal, bright as a torch thrust into oil. The man's face disappeared behind fire. He fell, clawing at his burning skin, screaming until the scream turned into wet choking. Jon stared for a heartbeat, shocked not by the death but by how natural it felt. The hatchling hissed, pleased, and tucked itself back into Jon's cloak as if it had done nothing more than bite a rat. Harry Strickland watched with a new kind of fear in his eyes. The captains did too. They had seen dragons in story. Now they saw them kill in reality. The remaining attackers fled toward the skiff. 2 made it into the boat. They shoved off desperately, oars splashing black water. A captain shouted to loose arrows. Men raised bows. Illyria stepped to the edge of the pier, her green hatchling perched on her forearm. She spoke again, low and sharp, and the hatchling hissed, wings flaring awkwardly. It spat another stream of flame. This time the fire struck the skiff's stern, catching the tar. The boat flared like kindling. The men inside howled and tried to leap into the water, but the water itself had become a mirror of fire. One sank, thrashing. The other clung to the side of the burning skiff until his hands could no longer hold. The harbor smelled of burned hair and salt and fear. When the last attacker lay dead or drowning, the docks fell into a stunned silence broken only by crackling rope. Jon's shoulder throbbed. He pressed a hand to the wound and felt blood soak his glove. Ghost stood over a corpse, chest heaving, muzzle red. Illyria's face was calm, but her eyes were bright with something fierce and almost joyous. "They will not stop," Harry Strickland said hoarsely. "Not now, not after this." Jon looked at the burning skiff. "Then we sail," he said. "Tonight." Illyria's gaze flicked to the iron-bound case holding the third egg, being hauled toward the flagship. "And we do not linger anywhere that smells of coin," she murmured. "Coin draws knives." Jon nodded once. He watched the flames consume the last of the rope and felt his hatchling's heat against his chest, steady, hungry. Across the harbor, shutters slammed. Faces vanished behind wood. Men who had been eager for gossip an hour ago now pretended they had never seen anything at all. That was how cities survived dragons. By refusing to admit the fire was real until it was already licking their walls. Jon turned toward the ships, pain and purpose braided tight in his bones. Behind him, the docks smoked. Ahead, the sea waited. And beneath the iron-bound case, the third egg warmed, listening to death and learning its own name. They left the harbor under a moonless sky, rowing in silence until the city's lights were only faint bruises on the horizon. Once the wind caught the sails, the fleet breathed outward, masts creaking, canvas snapping as if the ships themselves had been starving for escape. The sea was black and restless. Jon stood on the flagship's deck with Ghost at his side, watching the water roll like muscle. His shoulder ached where the bolt had entered. A healer had bound it tight and packed the wound with stinging herbs that smelled of crushed pine. Pain sharpened his focus. It reminded him he was still a man, not a story. Illyria remained near the hatchlings whenever she could. The green one, already more sure on its feet than the black, climbed the rigging like a cat, tail whipping. Sailors cursed and backed away. Illyria's voice in Valyrian snapped it down, and the hatchling obeyed with grudging hisses, dropping back to her shoulder. Jon's black hatchling stayed with him, clinging beneath his cloak, head sometimes poking out to taste the air. Its eyes watched everything, not curious like a child's, calculating like a predator's. The third egg remained below deck, wrapped in cloth, guarded by Golden Company men who looked as if they were guarding their own future. On the second night, the pirates came. They rose out of the dark like sharks. Lean ships with low profiles and oars that cut the water without splashing much. No lanterns. No flags until they were close. The first warning was Ghost's growl and a sailor's scream as a grappling hook bit into the rail. Stepstones. A helmsman whispered, voice shaking. They'll strip us. Jon moved fast. Archers, he shouted. Cut their lines. Men surged, but pirates were already climbing, faces masked, knives flashing. A man in a ragged helm leapt onto the deck and drove a hook blade toward Jon's ribs. Longclaw met him. Valyrian steel cut through leather and bone. The pirate fell without finishing his scream, eyes wide in disbelief. More came. Golden Company men formed a line, shields up, pushing pirates back toward the rail.
Steel ran.
Blood sprayed dark against moonless air. The sea below slapped hungrily at falling bodies. Another pirate ship swung close, oars churning. Men on its deck loosed arrows. One arrow punched into a sailor's throat. Another lodged in the mast. Illyria appeared at the top of the stern stairs, hair whipping in the wind, green hatchling perched on her forearm. Her eyes were bright, cold. Now, she said in Valyrian. The hatchling hissed, wings flaring. It spat fire. The flame was stronger than on the dock. Still thin, still brief, but enough. It struck the nearest pirate ship's sail. Tarred canvas caught, spreading flame upward like a blooming flower. Pirates shouted, scrambling to douse it, but fire did not bargain. Jon felt his own hatchling stir, offended by the competition of flame. Heat gathered in his chest as if his lungs were filling with coals. He pulled the little dragon free and held it out, careful of its claws. "Do it," Jon murmured, not knowing if the creature understood the words or only the intent in his blood. The hatchling snapped its head toward the second pirate ship and released a harsher, darker flame, short but furious. The fire struck the deck near the oarsman and leapt across spilled oil. Pirates screamed as his sleeve caught. Men faltered. Even pirates feared what they did not understand. But one pirate captain, a broad-shouldered brute with rings on his fingers, kept coming. He swung onto Jon's deck with a roar, wielding an axe. His eyes were wild. He had the look of a man who believed rage could protect him. He charged straight at Jon. Ghost met him first. The dire wolf slammed into the man's legs, jaws clamping around his thigh. The pirate bellowed and brought the axe down toward Ghost's spine. Jon's blade took the pirate's arm off at the elbow before the axe could fall. The The pirate stared at his own missing hand as if confused by the world's cruelty. Then Ghost tore his throat out. Across the water, the burning pirate ships drifted, flames reflecting in black waves like a second sky. Men leapt into the sea, thrashing. Some sank. Some clung to floating debris, screaming curses that turned into prayers. Jon watched them and felt no pity. Pirates would have sold their ships and men alike. Jon had seen too much of that. He had sworn no slaves, and he meant it. If he spared pirates now, he would face chains later. Harry Strickland appeared, face flushed, breath hard. "We can't fight every shark between here and Westeros," he snapped. "We won't," Jon said, voice steady. He gestured toward the burning wrecks. "We make an example. Word travels." Illyria's gaze stayed on the fire. "Fear travels faster," she murmured. The green hatchling on her arm hissed as if agreeing. The fleet pushed on through the stepstones, hugging channels where jagged rocks rose like broken teeth. In the days that followed, pirate sails kept their distance. When a ship approached too close, a hatchling hissed and smoke curled, and men turned away. Superstition was as useful as steel. At night, Jon stood at the rail and listened to the sea, feeling the third egg's warmth below deck. It pulsed now, stronger, as if the fire they had spilled into the water had called to it. He thought of the wall again, the cold, the endless night. He thought of the dead. If fire was growing in him, in Illyria, in these small dragons, then winter would not find them unarmed. But he also understood the other truth. Fire wanted to spread. It did not care what it burned. Jon watched the black hatchling sleep curled against his chest and wondered, for the first time, whether he was bringing salvation to Westeros or simply a new kind of doom. Pentos met them with marble smiles and hidden knives. They anchored outside the harbor and were met by envoys in clean cloaks who bowed too deeply and asked too many questions. Illyria answered with measured courtesy and the kind of quiet authority that made men imagine she had armies behind every curtain. Jon said little. He let Ghost's presence do the talking. Tycho Nestoris arrived that same evening on a small skiff, alone except for 2 guards who stayed at the rail and did not speak. The banker stepped onto the deck as if stepping into a counting house, gaze calm, expression unreadable. "You move quickly," Tycho said, inclining his head to Jon, then to Illyria. His eyes flicked to the small shapes beneath their cloaks and widened only the slightest fraction. He had known dragons were possible. Seeing them made the possibility real. "Quickly is the only way to survive," Jon replied. Tycho's mouth curved faintly. "A lesson bankers also learn," he said. They met in the captain's cabin, where lantern light made the wood glow warm and the sea's breath seeped through cracks like a warning. Illyria laid parchment on the table, terms, names, seals. Tycho produced his own documents with the ease of a man who could conjure debts out of air. "The Iron Bank can provide coin," Tycho said, folding his hands. "Enough to secure ships, provisions, bribes, and certain specialists." His eyes flicked to Harry Strickland's captain, who had been stationed at the door like a boulder. "Enough to make your fleet a blade instead of a raft." Harry Strickland grunted. "And what do you want?" he asked, too blunt to hide his suspicion. Tycho did not look offended. "The Iron Bank wants repayment," he said simply, "with interest, and we want collateral." Illyria's violet eyes narrowed. "Collateral," she repeated. Tycho's gaze remained steady. "Land," he said. "Future taxes from certain ports, rights of collection, preferably a seat of administration." Jon's jaw tightened. "You want to own Westeros," he said. Tycho's smile was small. "Banks do not own," he said. "We insure." Illyria leaned forward. "The Iron Bank backed Stannis Baratheon," she said softly. "And he failed." Tycho did not flinch. "The Iron Bank backed a claim," he said. "And the claim did not take. The bank learned. We prefer certainty." Illyria's fingers tapped the table once. "Dragons," she said. Tycho's eyes flicked to Jon's cloak. "Yes," he admitted. "Dragons. Also leadership." He looked at Jon. You have something rare. Men believe you. Jon felt a cold irritation. Belief again. Everyone wanted to wear him like a banner. Tycho continued, voice calm. We will fund your fleet, he said, on these conditions. The Golden Company's contract is honored as far as payment and land grants. The ports of Dragonstone and White Harbor, if taken, will be bound to a schedule of repayment, and a representative of the bank will sit at your court. Illyria's smile was razor-thin. At my court, she corrected. Tycho's gaze flicked to her, unyielding. At the court you build together, he said, or the bank withdraws. We do not gamble without a seat at the table. Harry Strickland snorted. A banker wants a throne room, he muttered. Tycho ignored him. He slid a document across the table toward Jon. You will sign, he said, with your name. The bank's faith requires ink. Jon stared at the parchment. The terms were precise, cold, built like a cage. He felt the old resentment rise. Resentment at chains, at being owned by words on paper. Illyria watched him. It is coin, she murmured. And coin buys ships. Jon's voice was low. Coin also buys men, he said. Then make sure it buys the right ones, Illyria replied, and there was steel under her softness. Jon looked at Tycho. You'll fund us because you fear winter, he said. Tycho's eyes did not blink. I will fund you because winter is bad for business, he corrected. And because if you succeed, the bank profits. If you fail, the bank still collects from someone else. That is how we survive. Jon's hand tightened. And if we refuse? He asked. Tycho's expression remained mild. Then your fleet remains small, he said. Your war becomes slower. Your enemies have time to gather. And winter arrives while you are still counting barrels. Silence settled heavy. Jon thought of the wall. He thought of Melisandre's letter. He thought of the dead marching without needing coin or contracts. He took the quill. The black hatchling under his cloak stirred, sensing his tension. Heat pulsed against his chest. Burn, the whisper seemed to say, impatient. Jon signed. His name looked strange on Pentoshi parchment, northern ink in southern hands. But it was his. It was real. It was a promise with teeth. Illyria signed beside him in flowing strokes, a name that looked like flame. Tycho added his own seal, wax pressed hard. When it was done, Tycho folded the papers and rose. The bank will deliver coin and contacts within 3 days, he said. In exchange, you will deliver stability. Jon met his gaze. I will deliver war, he said. Tycho's smile returned, faint. War is one path to stability, he said. If you win. He turned to go, then paused at the door. He looked back at Jon and Illyria. One more thing, he said quietly. When you reach Dragonstone, do not linger in celebration. The realm will not give you time. Illyria's eyes narrowed. Because the queen in King's Landing will strike, she said. Tycho nodded. And because there are other players, he said. Other claims, other fires. The world is not waiting for you alone. Jon felt his scars tighten as if the words had pulled a thread. Tycho left, his boots soft on the deck planks. Outside, Pentos's lights shimmered across water like coins scattered carelessly. Jon stood over the signed parchment and understood a new truth. Even dragons needed ledgers now. Fire might burn contracts, but men rebuilt them from ash. He glanced down at his hatchling, sleeping warm against his heart, and wondered how long before the world demanded interest in blood. The third egg hatched when no one was watching for it. It happened on the fourth night after Pentos, when the fleet sailed through a patch of cold sea that felt wrong in summer air. Fog clung to the ships so thick lanterns became pale ghosts. The wind died, leaving the water unnaturally still, as if the world were holding its breath. Jon woke below deck to ghost snarl. The dire wolf stood rigid near the stairwell, ears pinned back, teeth bared. Not at a man, but at the iron-bound case in the corner where the third egg lay wrapped. The air around it felt warmer than the cabin should have been, yet Jon's skin crawled with chill. Illyria was there too, rising from her cot, hair loose, eyes bright in the dim. The green hatchling clung to her shoulder, awake, hissing softly. Jon's black hatchling poked its head from his cloak and released a thin thread of smoke, offended by the cold. Then the sound came, not a crack, not a shatter. A low, grinding pop like ice breaking on a river. Jon's scars flared hot. The whisper in his blood surged so loud it felt like a roar behind his eyes. Burn. Illyria crossed the cabin in 2 steps and threw the case open. The cloth inside trembled faintly. Steam rose. The bone-white shell beneath was split along one side, gold veins glowing as if lit from within. Illyria's hand hovered. "Careful," Jon warned, though he did not know what caution meant here. Illyria ignored him. She pulled the cloth back. The egg cracked wider, and the shell's edges curled like petals under heat. A wet sound followed. Something pushed against the opening from inside. Impatient. Ghost's growl deepened. He took 1 step forward, then another, body low, as if ready to pounce. Illyria's voice was a tight whisper in Valyrian, coaxing. The shell gave. A hatchling slid out into the cloth, slick and shining, scales pale as fresh bone with faint gold shimmer along its spine. Its wings unfolded awkwardly, translucent at the edges like thin parchment. It lifted its head and made a sound that was not a hiss but a thin, piercing note, almost musical. Its eyes opened. Not green, not red gold. Gold, bright as coin in sunlight. The hatchling stared at Illyria, then at Jon, and then, slowly, its gaze fixed on Ghost. Ghost froze. For a heartbeat, man and wolf and dragon held still, suspended in fog and heat. Jon felt the bond tug through him, the warg thread that tied him to Ghost pulsing tight. The hatchling crawled forward, dragging itself across the cloth. It ignored Illyria's outstretched hand. It ignored Jon's offered palm. It moved toward Ghost with a stubborn, single-minded hunger. Ghost's lip lifted in a silent snarl. Jon's voice went low. "Easy," he murmured, not sure if he spoke to the wolf or the dragon. The hatchling reached Ghost's paws and pressed its head against the white fur, nuzzling like a newborn seeking warmth. Ghost stiffened, then, astonishingly, did not bite. The hatchling's mouth opened, tiny teeth glinting, and it bit Ghost's paw. Ghost flinched, growled, but did not pull away. Blood welled bright on white fur. The hatchling drank greedily, throat working, tail twitching. Jon felt something snap into place inside him, as if a knot had been pulled tight. Heat surged through the bond. For an instant, Jon's vision doubled. Wolf scent and salt air layered over lantern light. Then something else joined it. A strange new angle, a sense of height and hunger and the taste of metal in the air. Jon blinked hard, gasping. Illyria stared, breath shallow. "It chose the wolf," she whispered, and there was disbelief in it. Then softer, "Or the wolf chose it." Ghost's eyes were wide, red bright in the dim. He looked at Jon. Not with his usual steady animal certainty, but with something like confusion. The hatchling released its bite and curled against Ghost's paw, possessive, as if claiming a nest. Jon knelt slowly. He reached out, careful, and touched the hatchling's scaled head. Heat jolted through him like lightning. For a heartbeat, he was not in the cabin. He was above the ship, seeing through gold eyes, fog rolling beneath like a sea of ghosts. He smelled salt and smoke and blood. He felt an urge to spread wings, to tear at the sky, to scream. Then he was back, breath ragged, hand trembling. Illyria watched him with narrowed eyes. "What did you feel?" she demanded. Jon swallowed. His throat tasted of ash. "It opened," he rasped. "Like Ghost. Like..." He did not know how to say it without sounding mad. "Like a door." Illyria's expression tightened, suspicion and wonder mingling. "You are not only a wolf," she murmured. Jon's scars burned. He thought of Ned Stark's secrets, of blood hidden in silence. He thought of dragons answering to blood. Ghost lowered his head, sniffing the hatchling. The little dragon chirped softly and pressed closer, curling into the wolf's fur as if it had always belonged there. The cabin's air warmed further, fog seeping through cracks in the hull. Above deck, men shouted faintly, confused by the sudden stillness of wind. Illyria closed the case slowly, leaving the hatchling nestled against Ghost's paw. She looked at Jon, violet eyes sharp. 3, she said, voice tight. We have 3. Jon stared at the pale hatchling and felt a strange, unsettling certainty. The dragons were not simply beasts to be ridden. They were mirrors. They were doors. They were hungry for the shape of whoever fed them. And winter out there beyond fog was hungrier still. The dragons grew faster than any natural creature should. By the time the fleet left Pentoshi waters behind, the hatchlings were no longer palm-sized curiosities. Their wings thickened, their claws lengthened, their teeth became small needles that could tear through leather with a careless snap. Their appetites grew into relentless tyranny. The Golden Company fed them goats first, then pigs, then whatever could be bought without causing too many questions. In ports, men watched the ships with narrowed eyes and whispered to each other about strange screeches in the night and smoke curling from vents. Jon and Illyria stayed aboard whenever they could, refusing invitations, refusing feasts, letting rumor do the work. On calm days, Jon brought the black hatchling onto the deck and let it crawl along the sun-warmed planks. It stalked ropes and shadows like it was born for war. It liked heat. It liked the smell of steel. When a sailor tried to reach for it, the hatchling snapped and singed the man's sleeve. Jon's glare did the rest. Illyria trained the green one with ruthless patience. She spoke to it in high Valyrian constantly, as if language itself could tame flame. The dragon learned quickly, responding to her voice with huffs and clicks, climbing to her shoulder and curling around her neck like living jewelry. Once, when Harry Strickland came too close, it hissed and snapped at his beard. Harry swore and backed away, face pale. The pale gold hatchling was the strangest. It stayed near Ghost whenever possible, curling into the direwolf's fur like a parasite that had learned to be beloved. Ghost tolerated it with a grim patience Jon had never seen in him before. Sometimes the wolf growled and shifted, annoyed. Sometimes he simply lay still, eyes half-lidded, as if resigned to carrying a small furnace on his paws. Jon felt the bond with Ghost change. It stretched, widened. At night, when he slept, he dreamed not only in wolf scent and snow, but in heat and height. He would wake with his heart hammering, tasting salt and smoke, seeing the sea from above as if the sky had become his bed. He did not tell anyone. Not Illyria, not Harry, not even himself, not fully. One afternoon, as they sailed between islands that rose like jagged teeth from the sea, Illyria came to stand beside him at the stern. Wind tugged at her hair. The green dragon clung to her shoulder, eyes half closed, basking in sun. "We should name them," she said softly. Jon's mouth tightened. Naming made things real. Naming made them yours. Harry Strickland overheard and snorted. "Name them if it helps you sleep," he muttered. "They'll still burn what they like." Illyria's eyes flashed, but she did not bite at him. She looked at Jon instead. "In Valyria," she said, "names were vows. They told the world what you intended." Jon looked down at the black dragon perched on the rail near him, claws gripping wood. Its red gold eyes watched the water with hungry focus. "What do you intend?" Illyria asked. Jon's voice was low. "To survive winter," he said, "and make sure the realm does too." Illyria's mouth curved. "Then give it a name that promises survival," she murmured. Jon studied the black hatchling. The scales were dark as ink. Smoke curled from its nostrils even when it slept. It liked shadows and heat, biting at rope like it wanted to tear the world apart and start again. "Umbraxis," Jon said finally, and the name came out like a stone dropped into water. Heavy, inevitable, shadow and axe, darkness and cutting. The hatchling lifted its head, ears, horns, twitching. It made a sound like a pleased rumble and pressed its head into Jon's hand. Illyria's eyes glittered. "Good," she murmured. She lifted her hand to the green dragon. "You," she said, voice softening. You are Viridren, green flame, green fury. The hatchling hissed as if agreeing and curled tighter around her shoulder, tail looping like a crown. Ghost shifted nearby. The pale gold hatchling sprawled over his paws. Jon looked at it last. The scales caught sunlight like coins. Its eyes were bright, watchful, too intelligent for something so young. Illyria's gaze followed his. And the third? She asked. Jon hesitated. The name mattered more here, because this dragon did not belong neatly to either of them. It belonged to Ghost, and through Ghost, to something inside Jon he did not yet understand. The hatchling lifted its head and chirped softly, looking from Ghost to Jon. A faint warmth flared in Jon's scars as if it recognized him too. Solinar, Jon said quietly, sun and hunger. Ghost snorted, unimpressed. The pale gold dragon crawled up Ghost's foreleg and pressed its head against the direwolf's throat. Possessive. Harry Strickland muttered something under his breath and walked away, shaking his head as if refusing to accept the world's new rules. Illyria watched the three dragons, Umbraxus, Viridren, Solinar, and for a moment her expression softened into something almost reverent. Then the softness vanished behind calculation again. 3 names, she said. 3 vows. Jon's gaze went to the west, where the horizon was a thin, hard line. We keep them, he said. That night the dragons screamed at the moon, their voices thin but growing, and men on nearby ships woke sweating, convinced they had heard gods arguing in the dark. They turned west with a fleet that no longer looked like a hired arm. It looked like an invasion. Tycho's coin arrived in sealed chests delivered by discreet Pentoshi barges. With it came more ships, sturdier hulls, better sails, captains who had been convinced by gold and fear. The Golden Company's banners flew from mastheads now, yellow stark against sea gray. Men began to sing again, not only marching songs but songs of return, bitter and hopeful. Illyria called council in the flagship's cabin as the coast of Essos faded behind them. The air inside smelled of ink, salt, and the faint animal heat of dragons curled under cloaks. Harry Strickland sat with his captains, eyes hard. Lysono Mar stood behind him like a shadow. Illyria took the head of the table without asking. Jon stood at her right, hands on the back of his chair, refusing to sit as if sitting might make him complacent. The first landing matters, Illyria said, tapping a chart of the narrow sea. We need a seat, a symbol, a place where our banners can fly without being swallowed immediately. Harry grunted. Storm's End, he suggested. Or the Arbor, rich, soft. Illyria's violet eyes sharpened. Dragonstone, she said. A few captains shifted. Some looked uneasy. Dragonstone was a name heavy with old fear. A place that smelled of dragons even when dragons were gone. Jon's scars prickled. Dragonstone has dragonglass, he said quietly. Harry's gaze snapped to him. Dragonglass is a northern obsession, he muttered. It's the only thing we know that kills the dead, Jon replied. Silence tightened. Illyria's fingers slid across the chart. Dragonstone is also a fortress, she said, and it belongs to my blood by right, if rights still matter to anyone. Her mouth curved faintly. It will make men remember. Harry leaned back, expression sour. And who holds it now? He asked. The Queen? The Baratheon Pretender? A garrison of rats? Illyria's eyes flicked to Jon, then away. We will find out, she said, and we will take it regardless. Jon's voice was flat. We take it quickly, he said. Then we move north. Illyria's gaze sharpened. North, she repeated, and there was irritation in it. You would ignore King's Landing while it sits fat and vulnerable? Jon's jaw clenched. King's Landing can wait, he said. Winter won't. Harry Strickland laughed. Harsh. You hear that? He said to his captains. Our Dragon Lord wants to march into snow instead of sitting a throne. Jon's eyes went cold. If you wanted a war only for a chair, he said, you should have stayed in Essos. Harry's face flushed. His captains watched, tense, waiting to see whether steel would follow words. Illyria's voice cut in, controlled. "Enough," she said. She looked at Jon, violet eyes hard. "You promised to stand with me," she said quietly. Jon met her gaze. "I did," he said. "Against what's coming." Illyria's jaw tightened. For a heartbeat, her composure cracked, showing the sharp edge of ambition beneath. "And I am not coming back to Westeros to die in the snow for a war no one south of the Neck believes in," she hissed. Jon felt his scars burn. "Then make them believe," he said. Silence fell again, heavier. Lysono Mar cleared his throat softly. "There is a way," he offered, cautious. "Dragonstone first, a show of fire, then letters to the lords, a summons. If the north sees dragons and gold, they may rally. If the south sees dragons and gold, they may panic." He smiled faintly. "Panic moves quickly." Illyria's eyes narrowed, thinking. Harry's captains murmured among themselves. Jon watched Illyria's face, looking for the woman beneath the crown she imagined. He saw hunger. He saw fear. He saw, buried beneath both, a strange kind of loneliness, an exile's ache. He understood that too well. "Dragonstone," Jon said finally, voice steady. "Then north." Illyria stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once, sharp. "Dragonstone," she agreed. "And then we will decide what the realm deserves." Jon did not like the sound of that, but he let it pass. He had bigger enemies than a woman's ambition. That night, on deck, he watched the stars and thought of the wall. The dragons slept near the warmth of the galley stove, curled like living knots. Ghost lay near Jon's boots. Solinar sprawled over his forelegs, exhaling faint smoke that curled into the night air. Jon closed his eyes for a moment and felt the sea beneath, the wind above, and the strange pull inside him, like a thread connecting him to wings. When he opened them, the west was still dark, but it felt closer now, as if the world itself were leaning toward war. They sighted Dragonstone at dawn on the 9th day after leaving Essos. It rose from the sea like a clenched fist, black stone, jagged cliffs. The old fortress crouched beneath a sky that looked bruised with weather. Even from afar, Jon felt something in his scars tighten, as if the place recognized him or the blood he carried. The dragon stirred, restless. Ghost lifted his head and stared toward the island with a still intensity that made sailors whisper. A thin line of ships waited off the mouth of Blackwater Bay, war galleys with crimson sails and royal banners snapping. They had been warned. Ravens flew faster than fleets, and rumor faster than ravens. Harry Strickland came onto the deck, face hard. "They'll try to block us," he said. "They can try," Illyria replied. Her hair was braided tight, her eyes bright. Viridrin clung to her shoulder, wings twitching. Umbraxis shifted beneath Jon's cloak, sensing tension like a dog sensing thunder. A horn sounded from the royal line, deep and accusing. Another answered from their fleet. The sea between them felt like a stretched rope ready to snap. Jon watched the enemy ships and thought of men in armor, of cities burning, of the dead. This was still men, still politics, still small compared to winter. But small wars could kill you just as surely. Arrows began to fly, thin black lines cutting dawn. One struck a mast. Another punched into a deckhand's shoulder.
Men cursed, scrambled for shields.
"Close," Harry barked. "Row." Oars dipped. The fleet surged forward. The enemy galleys responded, turning to ram, to board, to make the fight close where dragons might hesitate. Illyria did not hesitate. She stepped to the rail, lifted Viridrin with both hands, and spoke a Valyrian command that rang sharp over wind. The green dragon screeched, wings flaring, and launched. For a heartbeat it looked too small, too fragile. Then the wind caught it. Wings beat hard. It rose above the deck, climbing, a living arrow of green and pale flame. Men shouted in awe and terror. Umbraxis strained against Jon's cloak, screaming to follow. Jon's chest tightened. He pulled the black dragon free. It clung to his forearm, claws digging in, heat radiating. "Go," Jon whispered, and the word was not a command so much as an opening. Umbraxus launched. Its wings were darker, broader now, carrying more strength than Jon had expected. It beat the air with furious rhythm and climbed after Viridren, smoke trailing like a banner. On the deck below, Solinar chirped sharply and pushed off Ghost's foreleg. Ghost snarled as if offended by being left behind. The pale gold dragon flapped awkwardly, then found wind and rose too, glinting faintly like a coin tossed into sky. 3 dragons over the sea. The enemy line faltered. Even disciplined men hesitated when the sky itself became hostile. Viridren swept low over the first war galley and exhaled flame. Green fire poured across the sail, catching, spreading. Men screamed and cut ropes in panic, trying to drop burning canvas before it swallowed them. The ship veered, oars splintering as it crashed into the galley beside it. Umbraxus followed, darker flame striking a second ship's deck where barrels of pitch had been stored for siege. The pitch exploded into roaring fire. The ship became a floating pyre in seconds. Solinar circled higher, crying out in a thin, piercing note. Its gold eyes scanned the line, and Jon felt the strange tug inside him, like a hook catching deep. For an instant, his vision blurred. He saw the battle from above, the ships like toys on dark water, the flames like flowers. He tasted smoke and salt and fear. Jon blinked hard, gripping the rail until his knuckles whitened. He was still on deck, still himself, but something inside him had tasted the sky. Arrows rose toward the dragons in desperate volleys. Most fell short. A few struck scales and bounced away. One caught Viridren's wing. The dragon shrieked, banking hard, but did not fall. Illyria's voice cut through the air from the deck, sharp Valyrian syllables, and Viridren steadied, rage flaring. The royal fleet broke. Some ships tried to flee toward the bay. Others turned inward, colliding in their panic. Fires spread across water, catching oil slicks and floating debris. The sea became a mirror of flame. Harry Strickland stared as if he had forgotten how to breathe. "Gods," he muttered. "No," Jon said quietly. "Dragons." They closed on Dragonstone's harbor while the enemy burned behind them. A few defenders on the island's cliffs loosed bolts from scorpions, heavy, ugly things meant for dragons. One bolt screamed through the air and struck the sea near Umbraxus, sending up a spray. The dragon shrieked and climbed higher, furious. Jon's scars burned. He could feel Umbraxus's rage like heat in his own chest. "Land," Illyria commanded, voice ringing. "Take the keep." Golden Company men surged into longboats, shields up, swords ready. Jon went with the first wave, longclaw in hand, Ghost leaping into the boat beside him, Solinar circling overhead like a pale omen. They hit shore under arrow fire. Men screamed as shafts found flesh. Jon pushed forward through black sand and jagged rock, the smell of sulfur in the air. Dragonstone's stone was warm beneath his boots, as if the island itself remembered fire. Defenders met them at the gate. Men in royal colors, faces pale, hands shaking. They fought anyway.
Stilrang.
Blood splashed on black rock. Jon moved through them like winter, efficient, merciless. He had died once. He would not die again for men who would still argue while the dead marched. Above, Viridren screamed and exhaled flame at the battlements. Stone blackened. Men fled. Umbraxus dove, darker fire blasting the gate's timber supports until the wood charred and cracked. The gate gave with a groan. The Golden Company poured in. By midday, Dragonstone's banner, whatever color it had once been, was pulled down.
Illyria Esne.
W banner rose. A 3-headed dragon in black on pale cloth, stitched hastily by soldiers who had never sewn anything but wounds. Illyria stood on the battlements, hair whipping in salt wind, dragons circling above, and looked out over the sea like a woman watching her own rebirth. Jon stood beside her, Longclaw bloody, Ghost at his heel. Below them, the fortress's tunnels breathed warm air, and Jon could smell the faint mineral bite of dragonglass hidden in stone. The war for a chair had begun. The war for Dawn waited close behind. Dragonstone's halls were carved for dragons, not men. Even empty, the fortress felt alive. Black stone shaped into arches like ribs, corridors twisting like the inside of some great sleeping beast. Torchlight made the walls gleam as if damp. The air tasted faintly of sulfur and old smoke. Every step echoed as if the keep remembered footsteps from centuries ago and did not care to distinguish between them. They made their war room in a chamber dominated by a stone table shaped like Westeros, its surface ridged with mountains and carved rivers. Illyria stood at its head, fingers resting on the carved crownlands. Harry Strickland and his captains ringed the table, faces tight. Jon stood opposite Illyria, looking north where the carved neck narrowed like a choke point. Outside, the dragons screamed and circled, their shadows passing across windows like moving storms. The garrison had surrendered, leaving behind stores of grain and barrels of oil, a few scorpions, and a handful of frightened men who swore they had only been following orders. Jon had spared them not out of mercy, but because there were too many bodies already in the world and not enough time. Illyria tapped the carved riverlands. "King's Landing is close," she said, voice calm. "Its fleets burn. Its lords will panic. We could take the city before it understands what we are." Harry Strickland's eyes gleamed at the thought. "A city," he muttered. "A seat. A purse." Jon's voice cut through, cold. "And while you sit in that city," he said, "the wall cracks." Illyria's jaw tightened. "Always the wall," she said sharply. "Always the north. You think the realm will follow you because you say winter is coming? They will follow fire. They will follow power. Take the city, and the lords will kneel. Then you can demand they march north." Jon met her gaze. "They'll kneel," he said, "and then they'll stall. They'll send half-armed men and call it loyalty. They'll keep their own hands clean while we bleed in the snow." Harry Strickland snorted. "And what would you do, Dragon Lord?" he asked. "March straight into winter with my men and leave the richest city in the world behind us?" Jon's eyes narrowed. "Yes," he said, "if that's what it takes." A murmur ran through the captains. Disbelief, frustration, fear. Jon let them feel it. He had learned something in death. Fear was not always the enemy. Sometimes fear was the only honest thing in the room. Illyria's voice softened. "Dangerous. You promised to stand with me," she said again. Jon's scars burned. He looked at her, truly looked. He saw the exile who had survived by sharpening her ambition until it could cut. He saw the woman who had bled into a bowl and bound herself to him with fire. He saw the princess who wanted home and the queen who wanted a throne because without it she feared she would vanish. "I am standing with you," Jon said quietly, "but you must stand with me too. You want Westeros? Then save it." Illyria's violet eyes narrowed. "Save it?" she repeated, tasting the word as if unsure it belonged in her mouth. Jon leaned over the stone table and pressed his finger into the carved north. "Winterfell," he said. "The wall. Eastwatch. The dead beyond. If we do not secure the north, there will be no realm left to rule. No throne. No court. Only night." Silence stretched. Tycho Nestoros's words returned to Jon. "Do not linger in celebration. The realm will not give you time." Illyria exhaled slowly, her fingers curled, nails pressing into stone. For a moment, Jon thought she would refuse. He thought she would choose ambition over Dawn. And perhaps she would have, if not for the dragons screaming overhead like reminders that fire without purpose was just destruction. At last, she nodded once, sharp. "We will not abandon the capital," she said, and there was steel in it. "But we will not ignore the north." Harry Strickland's face tightened. "You mean to split?" he asked. Illyria's gaze flicked to him. "We mean to command," she said. "Dragonstone is ours. We will send ravens from here, real ravens, not merchant whispers. We will summon the lords. Those who come will be rewarded. Those who refuse," her smile sharpened, "will learn what fire feels like." Jon's stomach tightened at the casualness of her threat. He did not argue. Not now. He needed unity more than he needed purity. Jon spoke again, steady. "We march north with the main host," he said. "We take Winterfell. We secure the neck. We reinforce the wall. We bring dragonglass from these caves." He glanced at Harry. "You want land? You earn it by keeping the world alive long enough to settle it." Harry's jaw worked. He looked around the table at his captains, seeing in their eyes the same calculation. If the North fell, there would be no home to take. Even Sel's-Words understood that much. Harry said finally, rough, "North first. But if your dead are a lie." Jon's gaze was ice. "You'll see them," he said. "Soon enough." Illyria reached out and took Jon's bandaged hand in hers. Not tender, not gentle, but binding. "Then we go," she said softly, "and we take the realm by the throat and force it to live." Outside, the dragon's cries rose, echoing through stone corridors like prophecy. Ghost paced near the doorway, Solinar clinging to his fur, gold eyes bright. Jon looked out through the narrow window slit at the sea, at the smoke still rising from the burned fleet's wrecks, at the horizon that hid King's Landing and Winterfell and the Wall all at once. He felt the weight of everything. Fire, ice, coin, contracts, blood, settle in his bones. He had wanted to be a brother in black. He had wanted only to do what was right. Now he stood in a dragon's keep with an army of exiles and 3 living flames circling overhead, and he understood the cruel joke of fate. The world would not be saved by good men alone. It would be saved by men willing to become something terrifying. Jon turned back to the table. "Send the raven." "Es," he said. Illyria's smile was thin as a blade. "And ready the dragons," she whispered. Somewhere beyond the sea, Winter listened, and on Dragonstone, fire answered.